Welcome to the coffee break. Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of the Coffee Break. I'm your guest host, Eric Jennings, and today we're sitting down with the CFO of Link Engineering, Derek Stoneburg, talking about all things automotive, their 85th anniversary, the changing brake environment, and how they're planning to diversify as the automotive world changes. So let's go inside. This is actually my first time in this Burroughs location. You can tell it's got a really cool feel to it. It's got rustic wood floors. It's just got this good vibe. And Link established a corporate headquarters here as they're running out of space in Plymouth. Hey Derek, how are you doing?
Good.
Eric Jennings.
Nice to meet you, Eric. Derek, camera guy?
Yeah, so I was just telling the camera up front a little bit about what's going on, the anniversary and the changing environment, and we're going to talk about those things. But before we do, since this is called the coffee break, I think it's only appropriate that we go have coffee first.
Let's grab coffee.
All right. So one of the main questions I have to ask before we start the show is what kind of coffee guy are you? How do you take it? What kind do you like? What's your favorite?
It's a good question. So I am a medium roast bean coffee guy. I like to grind my own beans.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have 3 boys, so typically it's Tim Hortons on the way to work.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm same thing, ground coffee, dark roast, pour over if possible. So
Great.
yeah. Now we've got the coffee part out of the way, let's go have a conversation.
Let's go.
All right. So, this is kind of first time for me. Hopefully this isn't too odd.
Yeah, no, it's great, Eric. It's been good.
Absolutely. So, understanding your role a little bit, you're the CFO at Link. Tell me a little bit more about your role, how Link's been evolving, and then specifically talk about this building and the decision to move here and what the purpose is behind it.
Sure. No. First of all, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you for including Link. Anytime you mix coffee with a finance guy,
Cheers.
It's great.
Thanks.
So to talk a little bit about my role, so as a CFO, my primary focus, Eric, is the health and financial health and well-being of the company.
Yeah.
Obviously, is to ensure that our employees have a longevity, have a career path, and have the ability to spend their time, quality time at Link, as well as obviously the shareholders and ensuring that the shareholders are meeting their expectations. So I'll talk a little bit about this building. So Link actually, our corporate offices had been mixed in with our manufacturing facility over in Plymouth. So right down the street, right on Plymouth Oaks Boulevard is where our primary manufacturing place is. Yep. So we made a decision to actually take our corporate teams out of that. So in this building right now, we've got a president, CEO, myself, and a senior executive vice president here, as well as some of our corporate teams. So we've got accounting, HR, and marketing right now. So the intent was really to move us out of the one manufacturing facility and let this team here look at the entire global business.
So this will be kind of your corporate headquarters, and you'll have your manufacturing at Plymouth, and then Dearborn, we'll talk about later.
Sure.
Will be your testing and services.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, very good.
So I understand there's been a lot of changes with Link in terms of the environment and the area that the automotive space is working in.
Sure.
So I don't know if you want to give a little insight. I know you as a brake testing service, given my past. But that's not all you guys do. So do you want to give a little insight into how the automotive market's changed and how it's affected your business?
Sure. No, it's a great question. So obviously Link core business, we've really created our foundation with brakes. Yeah. And to be honest with you, the key to our evolving and being successful is staying very close to those customers that have built our foundation. Yep. So with the changes in the environment, as you guys know, brake friction is tending to phase out, and we're seeing a big movement towards electrification. So whether that's regenerative braking, whether that's autonomous driving, any of those aspects, Link is now trying to work directly with the customers on how do we continue to stay involved in helping them with these systems and developing these systems. Yeah. So what we've done is actually evolved to beyond brakes and looked at more so of the wheel end. So if we look at that corner end of the vehicle, how does the axle, how does the wheel, how does the tire, how do the braking systems all work together? And when you talk about suppliers supplying to OEMs, the OEMs want to know how all those components together perform.
So Derek, I saw in a recent press release that you guys have acquired a company like Kraus.
Yes.
And I'm not very familiar with Kraus, so if you want to
Sure.
give a little background on who they are, how that plays into Link's vision or strategy moving forward, and just a little bit of details around the acquisition.
Sure, no, good question. So Peter Kraus has a company, it's really a very famous machine, the Kraus machine. It's really known globally in our industry, and has been very close with Roy and the Link family. So there was a time where Peter was at the point where he's kind of ready to make a change in what he was doing. Reached out to Roy. I remember we went over to Germany, met with Peter and his wife and actually his son, and talked about how we could work together and what makes the most sense. And we ended up actually acquiring the Kraus machine as well as the brand. And Peter agreed to come on board for a couple years and help us develop that. So it's been a great relationship. Peter's been instrumental in helping us. And right now our European team is actually overseeing the selling and the marketing of that machine.
Excellent. So another question, I'll kind of move on here to the international portion of your business. You guys are a global company.
Yes.
Automotive companies are becoming more and more global, and the testing requirements are different from a global standard. So just understanding maybe the challenges with supporting a global customer in different global markets, and then how maybe Link is establishing their presence on a global basis to support the customer.
Sure. No, it's a good question. So, I mean, one of our challenges was a lot of our equipment is sold out of the country. So to your point, how do we help meet the regulation needs for those divisions and or OEMs or tier ones in a different country? So Link has been very successful at being able to take really the footprint we have in the US, which is our, our core business with brake friction equipment, as well as a laboratory environment for testing various components and the services side of our business. Combine them into one and create an international footprint. So really what we've been able to do is work with our customers, most of which are global. So now when we have an interested situation where it's a piece of equipment or it's a testing need, we can direct them right to that location, that global presence. Same language, right? Knows all the regulations within that country, and support them not only from an equipment standpoint, but both testing and services.
Excellent. So I don't think we have too many more questions here at this moment, but I understand we are going to take a look at some of the equipment at the Dearborn facility.
Yes.
So I think we should head over there.
Excited, let's go.
All right, let's go.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I just want to let you know this is our testing laboratory in Dearborn. So this is one of our main testing laboratories here in Michigan. I thought it was a great opportunity for you to come in. We'll take a
We appreciate it. Interested to see how you guys are innovating and changing the brake market a little bit and other areas you're focusing on.
Great, sounds good. Let's take a look at a few pieces of equipment.
All right.
All right, Eric, let's go right in here. This is our vehicle testing area. So out here you're going to see both vehicle testing, and we're going to look at some actual testing equipment in our laboratory.
Excellent.
Let's go.
Okay, no camera or video
Yeah,
allowed. So Derek, people typically know you in the brake industry. What other things are you guys doing here outside of brakes?
Sure, no, it's great. So as our customers have evolved, we've also evolved to try to help support them in all aspects of the vehicle. So one of the areas that we're really honing in on right now is really the corner of the vehicle.
Okay.
So when you talk about the axle, you talk about the wheels, hubs, bearings, and the braking system, we're working in those areas to help support our customer. So this is a good example. We're going to go into an area right now where we're going to talk about how we're supporting our customers specific to tires.
Okay.
So let's walk in here. This machine is actually called the Force and Motion machine.
All right.
So Eric, if you look at this machine, it's hard to get a good angle, but if you look at where this machine is located, there's a tire that's mounted right over here. It's actually, they just took the tire off. They were just doing testing just a few minutes ago. What it allows us to do is actually on a flat surface, right, is to be able to really track and trend the actual movement of that machine with the turning and steering, so that our customer base can actually redesign and develop the steering system specific to how the tire is reacting on that surface. The other component that this machine brings is it has the ability to camber, so it can give you other dynamics specific to that tire, which really from an engineering standpoint is key when they're developing their steering system.
And so you're getting a real sense of what the tire goes to on the road instead of just a simulated
That's
flat
right,
track.
instead of a simulated flat track, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Eric, we're going to go over to another machine. This is the cleat machine.
Okay.
So this machine is really going to show us how it complements that force and motion machine, which is really going to give you a supplemental support of how engineers use the data when we're testing tires to actually develop their steering system. So this is the cleat machine. And that big drive there, as that rolls, you're going to see a cleat. We have different size cleats that go on that machine. And that actually is, when the tire rolls on that, it has different, right, how it reacts to that actual tire, compression and what the force is on that tire to help the engineers design those steering systems.
And how does this tie into the machine we just looked at prior?
So this is it's actually a supplementary, so it's an additional data for the engineers when they're looking at how do we get the right steering system and or tire and wheel combination. This provides additional data for that machine, so when they're developing and engineering that, they can put all those components together, the data on both of this machine and the force of motion, to come up with the right solution.
Excellent. So where are we heading to next?
So Eric, I thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the servo components that we've gotten involved with, some of the servo side and actuation that we're involved with. While we're doing that, we're going to go by, typically this is our core and foundation of Link. So as you guys know, the brake dynos.
I'm familiar with these.
So all along, that's right. You've had a lot of experience there. So continuing to support our customers, obviously brake components are a significant part of our business. So this is really an added part of Dearborn right now, where we have all our brake friction support right here.
And this is tested paid services.
That's correct. You know, both from calipers, rotors, brake pads, all different components and how they interact with a climatic chamber. So above, you're going to see environmental control units. So we're conditioning the air in those rooms for all the different kind of testing requirements that our customers are looking for.
And I assume you guys are building on the latest and greatest equipment to support the high humidity, low temperature type stuff that the OEMs require these days.
Correct, exactly right. We'll talk some more about that, but TestScore is our company that we acquired back in 2017 at the end. And what we've actually ended up done is taking those ECU components and actually re-engineering and designing them to better support specifically to these dynamometer in the chambers.
Excellent. So let's head over here real quick.
Sounds good, Eric.
So I saw this when we were walking by. It looks like a stroker machine, and from my past life, I've seen some of these. How is Link using this stroker machine to support commercial vehicle testing?
Yeah, great question. You know, as our commercial group, a lot of times it's very specific to fatigue and durability and reliability, right? So this actual actuation is actually testing the drum within the chucker. It was really just the fatigue and durability of that drum. So it's just a continuous, reliable test.
Understood.
And if we look over here, this is another good one. So this is a component tester, so basically a small shaker table. Primarily, this is a fatigue tester. What we've done is we've mounted a caliper on top, and all we're doing is we're actually making sure nothing comes apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just a fatigue
Are you also
tester.
measuring for rattle and clack in this shaker?
That's correct. Also taking noise vibrate readings.
So coming from the brake industry, I know that there's a big change in the electrification of vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and even the electrification of brakes. So how is Link supporting or preparing for that change in the market?
So, you know, with supporting our customers, as you know, that transition from the traditional brake pad right to electrification is significant, and there's a lot of money and emphasis going in that way. So what Link is very much involved with right now is how we're supporting regenerative braking and other aspects of just stopping. So a lot of times when we talk specifically about electrification, you get right involved with autonomous vehicles. So we're supporting that entire industry. It's really our existing customer base making that change. So Link is actually behind how do we help them design the systems that actually still perform in the levels they want us to perform.
I know as part of those changes, there's been a lot of talk around copper reduction and environmental stuff. Over my shoulder here, you guys have an emissions machine. I don't know if you want to run through that a little bit and tell me what it's all about.
Great question, Eric. Let's go over there. So this is a brake emissions testing machine. We took actually an existing dynamometer and basically created a testing system specific to brake emissions. So part of the development of this project came with us teaming with really the West Coast, so a lot of the environmental protection agencies out in the West Coast. One of their big initiatives right now is how is tire wear and how is brake friction wear impacting the environment. So this machine actually collects those dust particles, measures it down to the microns. And so we're working specifically with those teams out there to develop a way to test for that and give some kind of protection around that.
What's the OEM demand or OEM request level for this type of service been like?
Well, it's really driven by the regulations.
Yeah.
So as those regulations come out, right, it's going to really drive the OEMs. So what we're trying to do is get ahead of the game. So trying to work with the environmental protection agencies to know what those regulations are going to be so that we can directly work with the OEMs and make sure they're prepared to respond accordingly.
Excellent. So Derek, I really appreciate it. I want to say thank you for allowing us in your facility and taking the time to show us around.
Eric, I appreciate it, and I know that the Brake Report and Link has had a great connection throughout the years, and I appreciate you taking time to meet with the financial guy and not a technical person. So I think it gave you a better perspective or a different perspective into the business that Link does.
Yeah. So I got to ask you before we head out today, you guys have been in business for 85 years as a leader in this space. What's the key to your success, and what's the key to success moving forward?
Eric, it's a great question. The one thing I have to go back to is a person that I respect in our industry, and everybody that's watching this will know, and that's Roy Link.
Yeah.
So when Roy went to visit customers, his first thing was he walked in with a blank pad of paper and said, "What's your problem?" And he wrote down that solution. So Link has just continued to embrace that and evolve that. So what we've done is we've created a mechanism. So now we're not only creating solutions from an equipment standpoint, but we have laboratories that we've set up. So don't need to necessarily buy the equipment. You can test with Link. And we've provided services. And now we've taken that footprint and we've gone global. So as our OEMs and our customer base is global, we're supporting them globally. So not just from an equipment standpoint, but definitely from a testing and services standpoint.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
so
Eric.
much.
Appreciate it.
See you
Thank you.
next time.
Yes.